So, real quick preface here. I wrote most of this script back in mid-season 9 at the tail end of the Banquet event, but I didn't end up finishing the actual video in time. I've edited some bits of the script to reflect the fact that we're, not in season 9 anymore, but if some parts still sound weird, that's why. Anyways, enjoy this analysis. Banquet is one of the best game modes Embark has ever created, but I don't think it's deserving of that title in the state it was released in back in Season 9. My problems boil down to the flow and pacing of the match, as the current version of Banquet is really inconsistent with how much downtime there is between fights. Now, what do I mean by flow and pacing? Well, by flow, I mean the ease at which you can move between objectives and navigate fights. By pacing, I mean the ratio between fights and downtime, with downtime just being any time not spent shooting other players. And currently, the flow and pacing of Banquet is not aligned with the other game modes in the finals. The spawns in Banquet force players into one sector, which does start the fighting. However, this fighting is typically very quick, with a decent portion of downtime occurring as the winning team from the fight deposits their coins at nearby ATMs. If the winning team doesn't successfully deposit, then this loop repeats, with higher potential rewards. This loop, while in and of itself isn't flawed, its execution certainly is. Usually, you'll see a large amount of downtime between fights, and the fighting being comparatively short. This can make matches feel like they're being drawn out, making some matches feel boring. This is because of the way the game mode is set up. In Banquet, you're fighting 4 teams. A literal fourth party fight is happening 24/7. Combine this with the fact that each kill is worth 1,000 coins and the winning team takes pretty much all of the collected coins, you make for an extremely unfun second half of the match. After this first or second fight, you'll have a team with a large sum of money, typically 20 to 40,000. This creates a cat and mouse situation where the depositing team runs around the map trying to deposit their cash with the other teams trailing behind trying to prevent the plug. While this can be fun, especially as all teams congregate around a deposit station, it can also be very not fun if the depositing team knows what they're doing. A simple dash pad or grapple light, and it's GG's before the 5-minute mark, with the other teams forced to play a futile walking simulator until the match ends. This is only made worse with how ATM rotations work. They rotate once every minute between sectors and independent of the other station. This means you can have one station in the sector of the fighting and another located at a different sector, which only makes this cat and mouse system even more common. Let's look at an example of this, Las Vegas. Imagine the fight is currently at Zaraby alongside both ATMs. Once the first ATM rotates to Eastwood, the winning team, assuming they have a light, has a free win condition. This leaves every other team pretty much powerless unless they manage to lock down the Eastwood ATM and have another team guarding the Zaraby ATM. This is extremely improbable and still allows the winning team to wait for the Zaraby ATM to finish rotating, as the ATMs run on a roughly 30-second desync. It's situations like this which make the game mode feel frustrating or boring most of the time, hence why it has such low player counts back when it was in rotation alongside terminal illness. However, there is still hope for this game mode. I detailed my initial ideas way back in Season 4. Introduce zones to Banquet. Back then, I imagined a fixed zoning system, literally exactly how it is in TDM. Now though, I want a more fleshed out system. The zones should rotate, but in a crawling system rather than the fixed position seen in TDM, Point Break, and Terminal Attack back when it was a game mode. This crawling system would force a winning team to essentially escort their money, fighting off the other teams along the way. If there is no clear winner yet, then I think there's still a lot of fun to be had fighting building to building on the roofs of Monaco as teams rotate to a new zone. These zones should also be created around the ATMs, with each ATM synced to each other. This means both ATMs will be nearby each other at all times, rather than one halfway across the map. The size of these zones should also be around the size of a TDM area, like about the size of a sector, like small hospital in Seoul or the construction site in nearby buildings in Monaco. The number of teams should also be reduced to 3, but the player count increased to 4 per team. With this change, the chaos of fourth parties is gone, but the fighting remains just as dense as before. This would also be a pretty necessary change in the much smaller zones to prevent weird spawns and spawn camping. There should also be some game rule changes as well. There should be a max cap on the amount of cash held by any one player, about $10,000, which would allow players to coordinate with their team and still win with one joint deposit, but it prevents one light from just basically getting a free win. Also, cash vaults should just be removed from the mode. The point of them in the current state of Bankit is to essentially act as an anchor point for the fighting, but they take forever to open and net very low cash amounts, which would also just overall complicate this new version of the game mode. When combining these changes together though, we get a much faster game mode. One with much longer but still intense fights, and a game mode where players can go for kills and play for the objective without sacrificing one for the other. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of yapping videos, then you should watch me on Twitch. I love talking about game balancing and map design. Anyways, enjoy the remainder of your hour. Bye bye.